Simon, when a tweet appears these days and it maybe raises an eyebrow, we have a tendency to get behind it and think, all right, what was meant by that? Ivan Toney, of course, been in the news for all the wrong reasons of late. He admitted to 232 breaches of FA betting rules over a period of 5 seasons. And of course, he is banned and will not be back for many months. Ivan Toney of Brentford, whose career was going spectacularly in the right direction, but now the same Ivan Toney has got to sit it out for a bit. So, following last week's message of "I'll speak soon with no filter," another tweet from Toney has appeared. "Cream always rises. Remember that. Back soon." And his manager Thomas Frank has kind of erred on the side of this should all be about rehab for Toney. Have a listen.
Football and gambling's relationship need to be reviewed. And I think we can only look at ourselves first. How can we make sure that I know more or less all the situations. If not everyone came before Ivan came to us, but we definitely got a massive reminder of, do we do enough to educate our players? I think that's a big thing. But I think the football authorities have a massive task to lift to make sure that we do this much better. If I can't speak to them, I guess they have to ban me as well, the FA, because if I'm not allowed to speak with him on a support level, there must be something wrong. I think actually even allowed to contact people if they're in prison, aren't they? I think you are. So Ivan did something wrong. What I, on a personal note, don't get at all is how can you let him not be involved in football for the first 4 months? What do you gain from that? If you want to rehabilitate people, you give them education, or you do something. So now it's like, okay, this is a sanction, leave it to yourself, find out, die or survive. I think that's the big thing. And it's not only for Ivan, I think he's an example for all in the football world to learn from, because we also need to review the relationship between football and gambling. But there's no doubt for me, the first 4 months he could be involved in football. He should be forced to go to 100 schools telling about his background, football, everything. I think that's how it should work. But I'm a football coach. What do I know?
That was Thomas Frank. So what we know is this: Ivan Toney, it's an 8-month ban. He can't train until September. Simon, I think you were fit to be tied when you were listening to Thomas Frank there. I'll come to you, Carl, a former player. What do you think of it?
Well, first and foremost, right? Listen, the 8-month ban, right? This 2 months of the summer he's not playing, right? So I don't agree with that. The ban should start from the start of the season, right? So this 2 months
to impact him more.
Impact on him more. Listen, you know the rules. I've got no excuse for this, right? End of story. You know the rules. You're not allowed to bet. You're not allowed to bet on your own team. You're not allowed to do any of those things, right? So for me, listen, the book should be thrown at him, right? The rules are the rules. You've got to adhere to the rules.
Do I sense a but coming here?
No, there's no but. I don't agree with it. The rules are the rules. If you know, but the only thing that I would say is that I know this is going to book the trend. I don't understand why he can't train at the football club. He's not playing. He's not doing anything, but he's unless the club
because that's the consequence of that's the consequences of his behaviour. You can train with them in September. You just sat there suggesting that we need to concentrate people's minds with the nature of behaviour. So when referees are being abused, we want the most punitive of punishments for football clubs. When a player falls into that trap, and this is not about rehabilitating Ivan Toney. This is about making sure that football's image is as clean as it can possibly be. So there's no doubt in people's mind that sporting integrity is not jeopardised by the stupid behaviour of individual players. Now, for Thomas Frank to come out with this preposterous self-serving nonsense almost beggars belief, because you couldn't write this. This is a football club owned by a man who's made money out of spread betting. You could not write this. Right? Individual responsibility is now being superseded by a collective outcome. Ivan Toney has individual responsibility for his behaviour.
Correct.
Football's relationship with betting does not excuse individual responsibility. Every single player knows that they cannot gamble. They know they can't do it. They don't know they can't do it. They've lived under a rock. If you've got such concern about the well-being of your player, I'm assuming your owner's been down to the dressing room, given the fact that his background is from the betting industry, and basically availed his playing squad of the rigours and vigours of gambling, in the same way that you're suggesting Ivan Toney might be able to impart his wisdom to those around the school playgrounds of the world against the errors of his ways.
So what's your reasoning or your rationale behind
Tony?
What's your rationale about?
Because it stings. It sticks.
That he's not allowed to train at the club.
It sticks because ultimately punishments are not necessarily designed to overly rehabilitate. They're there to consequence.
No, but the consequence is he can't play in the football league.
So you know now, don't you? They're not playing, right? You've been told, you betted with, and I like Ivan, and I like his dad, and I don't want him for this, right?
Yeah.
But you betted on yourself.
Yeah.
You betted on outcomes. You betted on scoring goals, which means that you could have made decisions in the middle of a game
I understand.
that changed the.
No, I understand.
This is bigger than Ivan Toney.
And I understand that, Simon, and I understand his punishment, right?
But you don't. You're making. You're suggesting that he should be able to continue to apply his trade.
No, well, hang on a minute. They've not cancelled his contract. The club haven't cancelled his contract.
So
if
is it not important for him to be taken out of the mix so that he's not in amongst other players at that time, and it makes it feel as if he's in a.
There's a punishment.
He's in an environment. He's isolated. He's isolated. That's the message they're sending.
Listen. For me, right, I think the punishment. As I said, I don't believe the punishment should have started.
He can
now.
go across to America and train with somebody if he wants to. This ridiculous notion that Thomas Frank, I can't even talk to him on the phone. Shut up. Who's going to monitor your phone?
Well, this is my argument.
So childish.
Well, this is my argument because he could go abroad and nobody would know, and he could be training with another football club. So my argument about him not being able to train at the football club, I don't get.
Because there's a consequence.
That privilege has been taken from him, Carl.
And you talk about his contract, right?
Yeah.
What should happen from a moral standpoint, right, is he should also, with due respect to Ivan, have his money taken away, because he's put his football club in a terrible position. They didn't put themselves there. He put them there. They've got to buy a player to replace him during the time he's out, and they've got to pay his wages. And do you know why they won't? Because they're too damn scared of the consequences of it. Because if they turn around and say, we ain't going to pay your contract, he will pull out of his backside the fact that they've breached his contract. He'll then cancel his contract. He'll be a free, and he'll go off to Manchester United or somewhere else with £150,000 a week salary. And that's the reasons why. So the whole fruit of this poison tree is rotten to the core, and it needs to have the temple pulled down on its head. And the reasons why he needs to have this punishment is because he needs to be seen for the poster boy of consequences.
No, I understand the consequence of the punishment. I just don't get the fact that he's not allowed to train at the football club.
I've just told you the reason why.
But I don't.
For me, it's a lifestyle adjustment. The only thing he won't be doing is playing in about 16 games, right? So he doesn't get to play in 16 games.
I mean, when's he allowed to go back to the club? I mean, he's allowed to go back in September, isn't he? And train with the club.
Yes,
correct.
Right.
So he can't train, and you guys love pre-season, don't you? Right? Because you do nothing but pee and moan about it. So he can't train during the difficult period of the year. Oh, that's going to break his heart. He's going to come back in September, having been swanning around the world, and he needed his mind concentrated, because the length and breadth of what he's done. If the club are so concerned, bear in mind, right, that these offences happened 5 years ago, and he's still gambling now. Why don't they know this about their own player? Because Thomas Frank's deeply in touch with players.
I actually think gambling in football, especially now, has become very prevalent because the players have so much time on their hands.
But Carlton, hasn't it always been thus? Yes. We listen to you guys going off on card schools. Every time you go to an away game, card schools. The culture of football. And now what's happening is now, because it's been monetised by the betting industries, and it's the big, bad betting industries that are doing it. Now, listen, I do think the betting industries do need to be regulated. I do think the way they digitally communicate with people that have gambling problems is a problem. But for Thomas Frank, who, by the way, is a brilliant manager, to come out with this self-serving drivel as if his boy has been badly treated, I'm sorry, that ain't right.
And we recognise the fact that Tony is a great player and has been brilliant for Brentford.
And when he talks about Cream come to the surface,
Cream always rises. Remember that.
But that's a statement of fact.
We'll remember
What he's basically saying is there's going to be a need, Jim. This boy's brand is going to need to be protected, right? Because people are going to diminish him over the next 4 months. They're going to say, who wants to sign someone like that? He's a problem. If he comes in our dressing room and creates a problem, we can't rely on him. What sort of character gets himself addicted to gambling, right? So they're going to have all that going. So what they're going to have to do is they have to rehabilitate the Ivan Toney brand, say this was a moment in time. So when a big football club might want to sign him, they're not going to worry about the consequences of it. So that sort of stuff is basically saying, don't worry about it, I'll be back. And I'll be back stronger.
Yeah. And he will be back.
No, I think he will be.
But not for a while yet.
Top player.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Thursday morning, 10 till 1. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.